Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's CX Quick Tips. Oh, man, we've got a great discussion and a great guest for you today. Now, Kate Brouse is with us, and she's going to give us some insights on something that I think has been happening for a while, but like with so many other things, COVID has accelerated it, and we're going to get into that in a second. But, if you haven't been part of the CX Quick Tips, just make sure you click on that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube, and you'll be able to be notified when we have these, which is every Tuesday at 1:05 Eastern. And they're just a short, brief 10 minutes, but we get deep into a subject quickly so that you can hopefully take insights and then therefore take action. It's all about taking the proper action. Kate, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you today, Jim.
Oh, and we've had a great discussion. I almost started a little bit late because we started getting into that. And then again, maybe I did a minute or so. But we're going to make sure that everybody gets good insights from you on the gig model for contact center agents. And you and I have talked about this, and there was a book written several years ago called The Free Agent Nation that kind of talked about something that we're experiencing with this today. So, but if you could kind of give people an understanding of what you contextually and from your perspective mean about a gig worker in the contact center.
It's really interesting because a lot of people still only associate gig with a term that musicians use. I'm got to go play this gig. But gig has been used, I believe it was since 2009, 2013. I should have done my research on that one. To mean basically somebody who chooses the hours that they want to work. And it's been increasingly used via platforms and digital ways of communicating and logging on, whether it's on your smartphone or your computer. There are applications, and you basically choose what companies you want to work for and when. And the one that most people will, recognize is Lyft or Uber or all of these food service delivery companies. Those are all gig model workers. They choose when they want to drive or when they want to work and do it on their own schedule.
Okay, so when you're saying that, I start thinking about the contact center, and one of the things that has been an issue, evolving and growing over the past couple of years, and has been accelerated, is the complexity of the contact that comes to the agent. That's raising, I guess you'd say the requirement for those people to have deeper skill sets, as time goes by. I don't see that changing. I mean, as we use more artificial intelligence, we get better capabilities from our self-help systems. People are starting to use, in-app experiences and, intelligent knowledge bases and all of those types of things. How can something like this actually work when we start thinking about the contact center in lieu of the whole complexity and skill set issue?
Well, that's a really good question. And there are, many different answers. But one answer is that when you hire gig workers, you tend to hire somebody who already is a brand ambassador. They just aren't being paid yet. So if I love pizza and I want to go deliver pizza for, a company, I'm already going to be somebody in that space, right? So, for example, if you are a contact center and you're working in the pet food industry and you might ship pet food to people's doors, and you might be able to recruit and train the people who already love your service. So, it's like pet supermarket commercials where you see they're like, we hire people who love pets. It's that kind of model. But for the gig economy, you're already finding those people who are passionate about working for your brand because it's their choice. They aren't limited to, I have to do this because this is, within a bus ride from where I can work. So that's one thing. And the other is that as you get agents who are experienced at what they are doing, you then can have them available to take your tier 2 and tier 3 calls, and you can escalate those and you can monetize that so that when they say, hey, I'm becoming really good at this, and you notice that, then you monetize that and they stay around longer. And so the attrition level in the gig economy tends to be lower once you find somebody who is that good fit and that industry expert.
Well, when you're talking about that, for me in the contact center space, I know a lot of us would have, subcontractors, we'd have agencies that essentially would own the employment relationship. And, oftentimes we would use those in order to fill in, for our, more permanent and badged, staff that's, employed by us. But you're talking about something a little bit different yet, aren't you?
There are as many there's a lot of different ways to do this. You can hire an outsourcer. There are an increasing number of outsourcers who specialize in the gig model. So you can go to an outsourcer who specializes in that and they will walk you through it. You can go and you can hire gig workers and then you can train them and bring them on, or you can do something similar with the people who are already on staff in your call and contact center for those who have in-house centers. And an easy way to start, I mean, it just seems like it's huge to say we're going to start offering the gig model. But an easy way to start is just offer the agents that you have that are already your top performing agents the ability to choose what shift they work, or to, have micro shifts available. And then once you figure that out, you can kind of manage your service levels and understand what you might be able to need to have in place if you want to have some gig workers.
Okay, so then I start thinking about the systems to support all this. I mean, are we
Mhm.
really prepared? I mean, is this something that I can use if I'm a smaller operation and I'm doing my workforce management on, nothing more than maybe a sophisticated, spreadsheet? I start thinking about, how can we actually deploy this at, also then at scale? I mean, are the workforce management systems capable of handling these requests that you're talking about?
You're absolutely right. And my answer would be that in order to make this work, you probably don't want to be running just a small call center with 30 seats or even 300 seats. The gig model works really well when you are expected by your customers or clients to be available 24/7, sometimes even globally. And so this expands your base to be able to hire enough agents to handle all the different types of calls and the volume of calls. And so if you're just running something off a spreadsheet currently, you're probably not in need of a gig model because you'd have to hire so many gig workers and keep track of them that you're right. The workforce management systems aren't easily designed for that if you're running a really small center. But you can still offer micro shifts and split shifts to those workers that you have, and use that as a starting point. Is this something that we are interested in doing more?
As you say that, I start thinking about a couple experiences that I had with a couple smaller credit unions, and didn't have a very big contact center. However, they were trying to service a very extensive, availability time slot. And, so in other words, you just think about it, hey, we want to serve people from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Well, if I only have 20, 25 agents, that kind of makes it a little bit difficult if I'm also starting to now throw in Saturday hours in order to meet, my member needs. So it may be that, going back to what you were talked about, even though, I'm thinking the size thing is, opportunistic for some, it may not be prohibitive either. So I think it goes back to your scenario of saying how there's all kinds of different iterations. You just kind of have to figure out what works for you and test.
Absolutely. And there are many different outsourcers that allow gig workers to do different models. So some outsourcers that are providing, gig opportunities only allow their agents to work on one contract. So they may be doing that one contract 2 hours a day or 8 hours a day, 5 days a week or 7 days a week, but it's one contract. And there are others who allow their agents to train on many different contracts, so that an agent might be answering phones for 2 hours in the morning for a retailer and for 2 hours in the evening for somebody who is scheduling appointments for doctor's visits and things like that. So there's a lot of different outsourcers out there. So if you're interested in looking at the different models, I'd suggest, looking at many different outsourcers, figuring out what do they have to offer, because there is a lot out there and there is no right way to do it. There are definitely wrong ways to do it, but there's no absolute right way to do it because there are so many different aspects to consider. And so I think the main point, if somebody is considering gig, is to really do your research and don't just go, oh, yeah, this is going to be great, because it might not be great for your organization if you can answer all those calls with those 25 employees. But if you need to stretch those 25 employees, then you can say to them, hey, we're going to be offering this, and you can onboard more employees and you can offer those first 25 their choice of schedules and then fill in the gaps as needed.
For me, I think the big thing for us to note here is that what we have had to do in order to be able to meet the needs of today, really shouldn't be where we stop. We really need to be thinking about already, the end of 2021 and going into 2022 to see if how we can serve customers better, with the resources that we have available to us, can change, can be improved. And because we know the complexity is not going away by any way, shape, or form. Kate, I appreciate you sharing your knowledge and wisdom. Can you please share how the CX Igniters can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. I am on LinkedIn, Kate Brouse, or you can feel free to email me at kbrouse, that's BROUSE, at nticentral.org. And just one last thing, the gig economy is less about customer service itself, even though that is really important. It's more about the future of where you're going to find the talent. And so it's something that really needs to be considered because there's increasing demand for the best talent to be able to choose their employers and the hours that they work.
Very true. Kate is also a frequent contributor to CX Global Media, and you can find her on another CX Quick Tips as well as at the CX Global Media blog. Kate Brouse, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Jim.